And I think that what the next governor has to do is make it more advantageous for businesses to do business in Connecticut. Structures between everything from the tax structure to the way that the Attorney General's office chases the companies in the state of Connecticut makes it such that companies feel it's better to move out of state than stay here.
We need those folks for jobs. The biggest thing that's hurting America right now is the lack of jobs. There are no jobs. No one's working. People are out of work for a long time. And it has a lot to do with the tax structure and the way that we do it and the way that we approach those
and the regulation
areas.
structure, the regulatory structure is just it's anti-business. Now, I'm not saying that you should be totally lax and take all the strictures off, but a lot of the local banks are very healthy banks, and now they're going to be hitting us with all kinds of additional regulations and so on. And then for our customers, it's just murder what they're made to go through in this state, and it has to become a little better for businesses so that the businesses can provide the jobs.
And a lot of those are small businesses, guys that are just winging it and just working 20 hours a day, and they're struggling, and there's no incentive for them to do that. And those are the people that make the engine in Connecticut work.
That's right, the small businesses particularly. It's not the UTCs that we're talking about, and those folks.
Although a lot of those small businesses are related to those bigger companies.
That's right, they sell their vendors for them.
And so we need those bigger companies too, but we also need to do something to incentivize the small business guys. They talk about those grants that they're going to give in Washington or whatnot. And, I don't know if that's so great. I think it should all be administered at a state level, because every state's different. All regions in the country are all having their own different phases of this economic meltdown. But we really need to look at the way that we work, and X amount of dollars goes to paying somebody in government to do something. I mean, the cost of doing business in the state is atrocious, because we're paying for something in some part of our government.
Some overseer, some whatever.
I mean, we all remember when Weicker came down, to the Capitol, and there's 1 million people there yelling at him about the state income tax. Well, he said it promised to be sunsetted in 5 years, and it's grown exponentially ever since then, and will never go away, because it has to subsidize an infrastructure that needs to be fed, and we're feeding an infrastructure that's not making jobs.
Yeah, it is not sustainable. Not sustainable by the private sector. I read that government never gave to anybody anything that it didn't first take from somebody else. And that's a fact, and that's what they're doing.
We understand, we understand that the government is there to protect a lot of people. But you know what? When it gets to be so big, where it has to protect all of us, it's being dysfunctional, and that's what I think we're seeing. And,
yeah, they're not keeping up with the infrastructure, and in the meantime, you look at some of these state agencies and the size of the payrolls and so on. It's just fantastic, and the costs are too great to continue to sustain that. So what they've got to do is cut. It comes down to, you can't tax us anymore, for heaven's sake. You got to cut. And they seem unwilling to cut.
Yes, they do.
On both sides of the aisle, and
that's what attracted a lot of people to Connecticut in the first place. That attracted all the New York companies to move out of Midtown. And again, this is broad-based. I'm not just talking about corporate America, but when you talk about corporate America, you're talking about the whole entire business climate. That's what incentivized all those people to get out of Midtown and move up into Fairfield, New Haven counties. The cost was too great, and they saw that Connecticut was governed right. Now I'm talking 50 to 75 to 100 years ago, where there wasn't a huge emphasis on taxing, and there wasn't restrictions to doing business, and it was why we got the best companies in the whole globe to come to Connecticut.
Yeah.
And that made this state great and the wealthiest in the country. In 1885, the wealthiest neighborhood in America was in North End of Hartford, and now that same neighborhood is